Infidelity in Pakistan. Trends and suggestions. Honesty and loyalty to the spouse has been regarded essential for marital relationship. A traditional marriage is conceptualized as a lifelong, monogamous, sexual partnership that includes close friendship and economic support that is intended to create and raise children, in some cases, and to share assets and responsibilities to a greater or lesser extent. It also involves religious obligations for both the spouses. Today's socially liberating world may provide plenty of opportunities to the married to think beyond traditional marital bonding. Social networking, professional relationships, traveling, continuing education, shopping, etc. are some common examples of such opportunities. More independence for women, increased knowledge about sexual health and pleasure, gender shift in economic parity, and advances in gynecological care and birth control have also been considered the leading factors for having extramarital encounters. Infidelity is an emotional and sensual maneuver that takes place extraneously alongside a cardinal relationship and embodies a violation of trust as well as contravention of collaborative limitations set in that relationship. Some earlier studies have categorized extramarital affairs into an emotional-only type, a sexual-only type, and a combined type involving both emotional and sexual components. The emotional-only type may include sharing deep emotional attachments with a person other than the spouse, falling in love and spending money in this regard. The sexual-only type may include any mild, moderate, or severe sexual activity, e.g., from kissing and oral sex to vaginal and anal sex. Researchers have also found an increasing trend of having extramarital affairs. Studies which report the prevalence of extramarital affairs range from 20 to 55%. Men are considered more likely to have extramarital sexual activities than women. Figures for women's involvement in extramarital affairs have also been increasing day by day, especially due to their participation in the workforce. A handful of studies also reported no significant differences between males and females for being unfaithful. Males with higher social status and women with greater physical attractiveness experience more opportunities for extramarital affairs. Couples who do not regard their relationship sufficiently important are more prone toward sexual compulsivity. Extramarital sexual encounters are usually linked with a sense of having been betrayed by the spouse, and this sense may vary from person to person and couple to couple. Even online infidelity is regarded as a traumatic experience and weakens the trust among couples. Hypersexuality and related issues have been viewed in a pathological and negative perspective. Researchers have regarded these issues as addiction, compulsive sexual behavior or paraphilia, impulse control disorder or behavior addiction, out-of-control sexual behavior, and a neurobiologically oriented psychological problem. The core reason of infidelity is the extramarital desire, which is not a latest phenomenon. The prevalence of this phenomenon can be rooted back to the classical Roman and Greek societies. Polygamy has remained a social norm in many societies across the world, especially for men with greater resources. Wife-swapping behavior was observed after World War II within the U.S. military, key clubs, for the purpose of community brotherhood. Interactions with strangers, as compared to the spouse, have more emotional warmth. Infidelity can be explained through different theoretical perspectives. The social cognitive theories claim that unfamiliar interactions are associated with the emergence of social status, and familiar interactions are for the maintenance of social status. While approaching another individual for the first time, the motivation to connect and approach remains higher as compared with approaching the familiar dyads. The emotional warmth, therefore, remains stronger for unfamiliar persons. As women seek more emotional warmth and expression of affection out of their sexual activities, they may enjoy the interactions with unfamiliar individuals more than men. The attachment theory would focus on the notion that adultery occurs due to an attachment formed based on uncertainty among both the individuals. The academia of the social exchange theory is of the belief that antenuptial relationships serve the role of a market, and the individuals involved live their life based on the giving and taking principle by trading commodities. When the price of a certain commodity rises, the likelihood of infidelity rises with it. Moving on to the evolutionary theory, individuals become disloyal to one another on account of reproductive as well as biological intentions to obtain the supreme result for endurance. Lastly, theoreticians of the investment model hold the firm belief that infidelity may materialize owing to dedication in one's relationship, transcendence found in their substitute partners, and polarity found in the magnitude of contentment. Sexual orientation of a spouse can also be considered another important rationale for desiring extramarital sexual activities. Sexual orientation is another important factor that forms the basis for indulging into any sexual activity. It directs a person for both love and lust. Sexual satisfaction, therefore, is not merely based on bodily sensations but also involves mental gratifications. Infidelity has been seen harmful for the society and the family. It has been recorded as the largest reason for divorce and leads to harmful consequences such as disturbance in the family, psychological agony, and an increase in ruthlessness. In a relationship, enduring infidelity of any sort brings about catastrophic repercussions to either of the partners involved. Indicators like anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, etc. are usually experienced by the individuals who go through this. Infidelity sprouts a downfall in sexual yearning, gratification, persistence, as well as general contentment. Infidelity has adverse psychosocial consequences for the affected children. Infidelity has also been regarded a sin in many religions. Studies have correlated lesser levels of religiosity with higher intentions for infidelity. Pakistan is the sixth largest population of the world. It is a developing country with a Muslim majority. The cultural values of the country are mostly collectivistic and studying sexuality is a taboo. The overall picture of mental health of Pakistanis reveals several psychosocial issues and stressors which can positively contribute towards the trends of infidelity and extramarital sexual desires. The earlier literature revealed only 3 earlier studies referring to infidelity among Pakistanis. These studies focused on the perceptions of infidelity, pre- and extramarital sexual encounters of men alone, and projection of infidelity in Urdu dramas. Absence of the earlier research on infidelity in Pakistan led to a study by Dr. Sukoon which was aimed at exploring the trends of infidelity in the country. As investigating the actual occurrences of infidelity or extramarital sexual encounters was regarded a taboo and a culturally unethical way to conduct the research, the study analyzed the trends of infidelity through 3 interlinked constructs, namely attitudes towards infidelity, extramarital sexual permissiveness, and extramarital behavioral intentions. The study involved men and women both. Another objective of the study was to provide the couples with feasible psychotherapeutic suggestions to prevent and overcome extramarital sexual desires. The study involved 1384 married participants from Islamabad, Pakistan. They included 1034 men and 350 women. The number of married women was lesser than married men as women were mostly reluctant to participate in the study. All the male participants were on job. The female participants included 221 married working women, and 129 housewives. The age of the participants ranged from 18 to 85 years with an average age of 39 years. The education of the participants ranged from higher secondary level to PhD. The average education of the participants was graduation from a university. Attitudes towards infidelity scale of Whatley 2010, Rees extramarital sexual permissiveness scale 2013, and extramarital behavioral intentions scale of Buonk 2013 were administered. According to the findings, the attitudes of the participants were inclined towards favoring infidelity. Men had significantly more favorable attitudes towards infidelity as compared to women. The level of extramarital sexual permissiveness among the participants was 77.46%, whereby men had significantly higher levels of extramarital sexual permissiveness as compared to women. The level of extramarital behavioral intentions among the participants was 71.80%, whereby men had significantly higher levels of extramarital behavioral intentions as compared to women. Men also had significantly higher levels of extramarital behavioral intentions for flirting, sexual intercourse, light petting, long-term sexual relationship, and falling in love. Attitudes towards infidelity had significant positive correlations with extramarital sexual permissiveness, extramarital behavioral intentions, age, and education. Extramarital sexual permissiveness had significant positive correlations with attitudes towards infidelity, extramarital behavioral intentions, age, and education. Extramarital behavioral intentions had significant positive correlations with attitudes towards infidelity, extramarital sexual permissiveness, age, and education. Having sexual desires, even extramarital, is a normal condition. Marriage itself cannot stop a person psychophysiologically from having extramarital sexual desires. Having extramarital sexual desires is seen incorrect in a cultural or religious perspective. Psychologically speaking, sexual desire is a potent, physiological law that arises from cerebral activity, imagination, and pleasurable physical sensations. Stewart, Hammond and Pett were sex researchers who claimed that sexual desire is basically a biological desire, involving endocrine fluctuations and neural activity, and is also influenced by certain psychological factors. Bancroft regarded sexual desire as a state similar to hunger, and said that people can be sexually hungry based on their subjective experiences. The earlier motivation theorists such as Troland and Holt also considered lust as fundamental human instinct and reflected it as erotic desire, sexual impulse, sexual instinct, and sexual appetite. Lust has been regarded as the strongest force in human nature. While comparing the sexes, studies have found that men report higher sexual desire than women. Lust has also been interpreted in a couples or relational perspective. According to Verhulst and Heyman, sexual desire of one partner is located in the other partner, it arises from within the partner. It originates from the external source of stimulation rather than from within the person. This concept can be understood better in a socio-psychological perspective whereby self is regarded as the social perception of others about a person. Many clinicians, however, have also realized the associations of sexual desire with the external stimulations in the society, especially with the sexual partner. They placed sexual desire in a broader psychosocial context rather than a mere biological experience. Sexual health is considered an integral part of the overall psychosocial health. Within a psychosocial perspective, the highly educated, the extroverts, people who marry earlier in life, and the less religious have been found more likely to have extramarital affairs. Jealousy has also been considered as an important factor for extramarital affairs. A partner may get involved in extramarital affair to take revenge for his or her partner's infidelity. Women have been found to be more jealous than men in this regard. The findings of the aforesaid study by Dr. Sukoon revealed significantly higher levels of extramarital sexual permissiveness and extramarital behavioral intentions among men as compared to women. Men had more favorable attitudes towards infidelity as compared to women. A large body of literature has confirmed that males have 2.5 times greater extradyadic sexual desires as compared with women. There is a rich literature which claims that males experience significantly frequent and intense sexual arousal as compared with females, and this trend appears to be present across cultures. Lipa conducted a study involving sample from 53 nations and reported that men have significantly greater sex drive as compared with women. Men think of sex more than women, want more sex than women, and have more sexual fantasies than women, including extramarital sexual fantasies. Men have a greater ability to distinguish sex from love, which remains difficult for women as they strongly associate the commitment of a relationship with sex. The biological explanation for males having higher sexual desires than women is testosterone, which has been found much higher in males than in females. Women have also been found to follow the moral and cultural values more than men. Within the framework of the aforesaid study by Dr. Sukoon, the study also proposed some feasible suggestions for couples to avoid and deal with the incidents of infidelity. Dr. Sukoon proposed that having extramarital sexual desires itself is not abnormal in a psychophysiological perspective. It is regarded bad or harmful in a cultural or religious perspective. His study suggests the married couples belonging to a collectivistic culture to understand the psychosocial, cultural, and religious aspects involved in extramarital sexual desires, and to direct these desires towards their spouse's back. The effective management of infidelity requires the couple to understand and respond to any possible extramarital sexual desires in a normal, instead of an abnormal or psychopathological way. Instead of feeling traumatized, the betrayed spouse should have a caring sense of ownership for the other spouse. The well-informed, evidence-based, and constructive argumentation between couples is extremely important in dealing with infidelity and extramarital sexual desires. Having valid scientific knowledge on infidelity and extramarital desires can enable the spouses to manage these issues in a more constructive and sympathetic way. Having appropriate knowledge is quite mandatory for an effective communication. The prime objective of the process of argumentation is also to critique because of the knowledge one professes. It is the appropriate knowledge which enables a person to reason validly and shape the arguments into a rational discourse. The absence of appropriate knowledge would lead the person to argue through emotional expressions and aggression, instead of reasoning. The argumentative skills deficiency model suggests that lack of logical argumentation results in verbal aggression, which further leads to physical violence. Instead of treating the hypersexual or unfaithful partner with aggression, rage, and fury, the other partner should become more sympathetic and loving. This could also prevent separation and divorce. Latest studies also suggest that sex addicts should be dealt through an attachment-based rather than a trauma-based approach. Couple counselors have proposed several strategies to overcome sex addiction and compulsivity, such as cognitive restructuring, defining behavioral boundaries, empathy, positive self-talk, and recognizing and avoiding high-risk situations. Different clinical models have also been treating infidelity in different constructive ways. For effective argumentation, the couple must know the importance of sexuality and sexual desires, especially in the married or committed phase of life. Sexuality has been regarded as the most basic and the most important aspect of marital life. Sex is considered the prime reason for arguments and fights between partners, making it the most common reason to seek marital counseling and break up. Studies have also reported that sexual desire in married couples decreases with the passage of time due to many reasons. The study by Dr. Sukoon has also revealed a significant positive correlation between infidelity and age. Passage of time in a marital relation leads, dyadic fantasies, to extradiadic fantasies, making the partners think of sources other than their spouses for novelty and variety. These fantasies may lead to actual actions that may have adverse consequences. The formal marital sex, on the other hand, is not necessarily an indicator of sexual desire, sexual pleasure, or sexual satisfaction. It mostly seems to be a routine activity rather than a sensual ecstasy. Several studies have concluded that the occurrence of sexual activity in married couples does not necessarily imply sexual desire. A spouse may get indulged in sexual activity due to several other reasons, such as reputation and safety concerns. Consenting to unwanted sex, as well as not consenting to wanted sex, is a common marital practice. Women are twice as likely as men to comply to the sexual requests of their partners even without having mood for sex. This is mainly due to the insecurities women have, which further lead to attachment anxiety, i.e., anxiety to lose a partner. Women usually see sexuality in the context of an emotional relationship, and their sexual preferences are less constant than men due to cultural, social, and situational pressures. Sexual satisfaction, therefore, is not merely the absence of its opposite, that is sexual dissatisfaction. It includes sexual activity and orgasmic consistency along with the satisfaction of subjective expectations. A detailed definition of sexual satisfaction is the effective response arising from one's evaluation of his or her sexual relationship, including the perception that one's sexual needs are being met, fulfilling one's own and one's partner's expectations, and a positive evaluation of the overall sexual relationship. Several studies have demonstrated the predictive nature of sexual satisfaction for the overall relationship satisfaction, whereby higher sexual satisfaction has been strongly and positively correlated with relationship satisfaction. Sexual satisfaction, furthermore, has also been positively correlated with self-esteem, well-being, and quality of life. The common predictors of sexual satisfaction for couples include sexual desire, sexual frequency, quality of sexual activities, communication, and expression of affection. Sexual attraction of one partner is also an important factor in the sexual satisfaction of the other partner. Sexual assertiveness, or sexual communication, is another significant contributor to the management of extramarital desires and infidelity. Sexual assertiveness is communicating one's sexual needs to the partner, to disclose sexual preferences, make direct requests to initiate sexual behavior, and refuse sexual behavior. Sexual assertiveness could be defined comprehensively as being able to recognize, prioritize, and express one's own limits, needs, and desires in a sexual situation. It is a social skill, a tendency to be confident about one's sexuality, and an ability to fulfill one's sexual needs. Sexual communication is a form of education between partners about their sexual needs, desires, and preferences, as these preferences may be naturally different from one partner to another. Sexual communication may involve causal discussion between the partners on a variety of sexual topics. It helps in achieving sexual goals such as sexual autonomy and sexual satisfaction, higher sexual desire, sexual satisfaction, more positive feelings about sexual fantasies, having lesser chances for sexual victimization. There are plenty of studies which emphasize the role of sexual assertiveness in improving a couple's sexual and relationship satisfaction. Sexual assertiveness has been positively associated with overall mental health, self-assertion, self-esteem, self-expression, and satisfaction with interpersonal relationship. The higher levels of sexual assertiveness among spouses would also prevent them from sexual victimization. Couples who are sexually assertive understand each other better. Sexual communication is an effective way to prevent possible infidelity. Being assertive is recommended even in disclosing infidelity to the betrayed partner. Instead of hiding, the partner who is involved in infidelity or extramarital relation should disclose this to the partner. Disclosure would strengthen the relationship. Studies have established that disclosure is the right decision in this regard. Sharing sexual fantasies is another important way to prevent and manage infidelity. Sexual fantasies are having sexual ideas in a daydreaming mode. People fantasize sexually to promote sexual arousal and enjoyment. Sexual fantasies can be based on pure experience, completely new imaginations, or a mixture of both. Fantasies can even include unpleasant events such as forced sex and rape, which are more exciting, pleasurable, and sexually arousing as compared to the pleasant events. Males fantasize with more automatic and explicit sexual details, and women involve themselves in emotionally driven story-based scenarios. Men are more prone to have extradyadic sexual fantasies. Sexual fantasies increase sexual desire, increase frequent orgasms, and encourage to perform corresponding sexual behavior. Fantasies training is a psychotherapeutic technique to guide partners to generate arousing sexual imagery and has been found helpful in relational well-being. A spouse should fantasize the other spouse sexually in the absence of the spouse to be sexually and romantically connected. Even extradyadic fantasies may help in maintaining sexual desire and regulating sexual discomfort. Sharing such fantasies among spouses may further improve their sexual experiences. These fantasies may also be helpful in addressing hypo or hyperactive sexual desire disorder. Shared porn consumption could also be helpful in sexual assertiveness and sharing sexual fantasies. Pornography has been considered a positive and useful source of sex education. It decreases sexual shame, which is quite beneficial for married couples. There are certain studies which have reported positive impacts of pornography on married couples' overall sexuality. Sexual gratitude is also important in developing and maintain trust between the partners. The elements of appraisal and appreciation for sexual acts are usually absent in marital relationships, making a partner feel as taken for granted. Sexual gratitude, that is being thankful to the spouse for his/her sexual concerns, is an essential part in maintaining romantic relationships. It is a key contributor to flourish a relationship. The intimacy between partners requires expressing gratitude by one partner in return to the self-disclosure of the other partner. Spouses should project their sexual gratitude in both verbal and non-verbal forms to enrich their sexual experiences. They should express thankfulness to the partner to acknowledge and appreciate the received sexual pleasure. To conclude, couples should consider marriage as a lifelong commitment which requires honesty and loyalty. The extramarital desires or infidelity by a partner should not be taken as negative or traumatic. Couples need to entertain these desires through wisdom and love. An extramarital sexual desire of one spouse should be treated as the desire of the other spouse, if sense of belonging, ownership and commitment is claimed. These desires, moreover, can feasibly be directed to the actual spouse, instead of thinking extradyadic ways for gratification. Both the spouses should work on improving their knowledge on the relevant areas. They should confess that they are not appropriately sensitized on the importance of sexual satisfaction in a marital relationship. The quality of their marital sex is mostly routine and lacks the required sexual excitement. They avoid considering porn as a positive mean to improve sexual pleasure. They consider lust more as a socio-cultural construct rather than considering it as a biological and instinctual phenomenon, and they are unaware of the facts and figures about infidelity-related trends. After these confessions, the couple should work on being more sexually intelligent by improving sexual assertiveness between spouses, practicing shared sexual fantasies, and being grateful to each other for receiving sexual excitement. Thanks for listening. To read the entire paper, kindly visit www.dersakoon.info.